important step if we're going to make a transformation in the world. Yeah, can I repeat? Yes. So this is where you basically said the regulatory aspect of the mind, maybe not consciousness and maybe not subjective experience, but put those on the side for a moment. Let's try to be really scientific about what we're doing. The third aspect of mind, we're defining, not just describing, but defining as a regulatory. And we're putting it in a location so that this aspect of the mind exists in a physical space of the whole body and our relationships with each other and even our relationship with the planet. Right? So it also takes the concept of self, which we'll just touch on briefly here, and it makes you realize that the self then is not just a singular noun, it's a plural verb. Which makes no sense grammatically, I understand. Believe me, my copy editor of the Developing Mind Second Edition said, you can't say that. So plural verb, I don't know how you say that in other languages, but the idea of verb is an action word, and plurality means the self is not singular. It's distributed. So, there's no reason self needs to be restricted by the boundary of the skin. And if we're going to save this planet of ours with this incredibly destructive and gorgeous species we have, we need to make the self not be defined by the skin. We have to go from me to we. We have to, or our grandchildren are not going to have a very good planet that we pass on. This is a matter of emergency. And the work all of you do in psychotherapy is not just about what happens in the office. It's about what goes beyond the office, out into the world. So this is where you say, well, if we have a definition of mind that embraces a regulatory process that's both embodied and relational, you're really in a strong position. So I thought when this definition emerged 20 years ago, it would be about wrestling with all the other different definitions, and we'd come to some nice, respectful discussion. But in fact, this is going to be strange for me to say, there is no definition of mind anywhere. There's no definition of mind in psychology. There's no definition of mind in psychiatry. There's no definition of mind in education. There's no definition of mind in the field of philosophy of mind. It's true. Some of my dearest friends are philosophers of mind who write books with mind in the title. They have no definition of mind. I said, what's with that? They go, you can't define mind. You shouldn't define mind. It's a philosophical error. I said, well, gosh, if I were a philosopher, I'd probably feel the same way, but I'm a practitioner. I'm trying to help the world change. He goes, well, in philosophy, we don't do that. All right. Whatever. So, with this definition, you not only get all those fields really angry at you, which is what happened, there's no respectful discussion that's emerged, I want to tell you. It's been this statement like, I haven't done it my whole career and I'm a chairman. Why would I start? I'm serious about that. So part of it is that the energy world where it gets them. So what is energy? And what does it mean to have information that is a swirl of energy? Well, how many of you speak Greek? You speak? Any Greeks? Ancient Greek. Okay, I don't know if this is ancient, but I'm going to say a word, and let's just see what it does for those of you in the room. Glikanera. Someone's smiling. Good. I think I was there with you. Yeah, isn't it? Shh, don't say anything. We'll share our love of it. So glikanara. Now, glikanara, how did you know I said it? How'd you hear it? Waves. Waves of what? Energy. It's sound waves, which are air molecules moving. So the only way from this body to that body to your bodies is energy flow in air molecules moving. Nothing fancy. It's scientific. It's energy flow. Now, what happens when that sound gets to your eardrum? It vibrates eardrum. That's energy, kinetic energy. Now, what happens with the 8th cranial nerve, the acoustic nerve? That is attached to that tympanic membrane. What does it do? What? It doesn't vibrate. What does it do? It sends a neural signal. What is a neural signal? It's energy in the form of ions going in and out of a membrane called an action potential. And when it gets to the end of the axon, the long length of the neuron, what happens? What happens there? The synapse. It releases the chemical floats across the synaptic space, and then what happens? There's a receptor, and the transmitter goes like a key inside of the receptor, which is like a lock, and then what happens if there's enough excitatory transmitters released? Another action potential. Fine. So the whole nervous system is all about electrochemical energy flow. That's scientific.
Thank God.
Thank God. Thank God. It's electrochemical energy flow throughout the whole body. Why would anything be limited up in a skull? That's ridiculous. I mean, it's bioillogical. Bioillogical. Translate that. So anyway, you see these unusual things people say that don't. All right. So the way you got glikanara was energy flow. Fine. But two of us have information from glikanara that the rest of you don't have. So what? Let's go on to the next subject. So what's information? So information is when you extract from an energy pattern symbolic meaning. Glikanara means sweet water in Greek. And if you go to Crete, on the south side of Crete, facing Africa, in a bay more beautiful than you can imagine, are caves where if you're 25 and you dropped out of medical school, you can live in a nudist colony. And the rest I don't need to tell you about. Isn't it gorgeous there? It's gorgeous. It's beyond gorgeous. It's like you're there, you go, I am now in heaven on earth. It's just unbelievable. Anyway, I don't want to go on and on, but the point is glikanara has a lot of meaning for us. I think you look very familiar. In a certain fashion. Okay. So that's the information that's contained. The same energy flow for the two of us had information, but not for you. So when kids have difficulty learning in school, energy is being thrown at them and they cannot extract information from the energy. For all sorts of reasons. That's when we look at this in schools, you can get a deep analysis when you understand the mind. The mental experience is shaped by energy and information flow. Okay, but for therapy, which is what we're focusing on today, we can say that on Monday, a therapist could then go and teach their clients how to strengthen the mind. Well, how do you do that? Regulation is always composed of two parts. When you drive a car, you have to monitor what's happening, monitor, and you have to modify what's happening. So Monitor means seeing, hearing, taking in through the senses. Modifying means being able to manipulate or modulate what's going on. So a strong mind is able to monitor with stability, depth, and clarity, so that what is seen is in focus and has very clear detail. It's like stabilizing a camera. We call the mind sight camera, that has a lens that lets you see energy patterns. Where are they, these energy patterns? You tell me. They're everywhere, but if you say everywhere, everyone rolls their eyes. They are in two places. They're in your body and in your relationships. Right? Kind of a no-brainer, right? It's in your... So, the mind is in your... This regulatory aspect of mind, maybe not subjective experience, maybe not awareness, fine. But the regulatory aspect of the mind, we place solidly in the body, not just the skull, and in relationships, not just in a single body by itself. Everyone got that? So on Monday, your job, part one, is to teach yourself and your clients to monitor energy flow in the body and in relationships. What's a relationship? What is a relationship, by the way? It's energy exchanged between people or you and the planet, or whatever you're in a relationship with. Don't get enthusiastic. Slow down. So now I have a relationship with myself, telling myself to slow down. I have a relationship with the translators, so I have them in my mind, right? So this experience we're all having right now is about energy and information being shared. That's a relationship. The brain, if you want to just use that term, never is just in the skull, but it would be a term, if you're from California, and you can't use the word body because people will immediately dismiss you, you can use the word brain if you describe the brain as the embodied nervous system, which is what I do. Because you're going to see in a moment that what I'm about to tell you is really the wild stuff. This was just the preliminary stuff. This was the easy stuff. So when you're always on the edge, when you're from California, you have to say things where they can be grasped as best as they can. So I can't think of an alternative for energy, but I can think of an alternative for body. So you'll see me always use the word brain, because people seem more open to that than the body. And I always say it's the embodied nervous system distributed throughout the entire body. And I even started putting embodied brain, and my daughter, who's a teenager, told me that's redundant, and she rolled her eyes. And I said, what's redundant about it? She goes, have you ever seen a brain not in a body? I said, well, that's exactly the point.